Hi everyone, I'm here to review a very tiny little independent film you might have heard of called Avengers Endgame. Now, I'm going to try to be as quick as possible because I'm very long-winded usually, but I'm going to not be that way this time, I hope. So, the first question you might wonder, is Endgame a good movie or not? I would argue it's too big to not be a good movie. It's too big to fail on that. But it's a much more different kind of movie than Infinity Wars. If you're going in there thinking that, this is going to be a continuation of Infinity Wars, it's a completely different film. It's much more reflective. It's much more emotive. And especially in the first hour. And one of the things about the movie that everyone's been talking about, oh, and by the way, my Captain America shirt on, is that it's 3 hours and 2 minutes long. In these 3 hours, there is a lot of levity. There are a lot of places for you to breathe in this action-packed film. There's a lot of comic relief and levity from Thor's character and the situation that he's found himself in after Infinity Wars. Infinity Wars. And there's another section of the film there's a scene between Black Widow and Captain America where they're discussing ways that the planet has started to heal itself. Have you ever seen the movie First Reformed? There's they talk about one situation where they're seeing more whales swimming up into the Hudson River. So animals that were once almost close to extinction are thriving again, and there's a lot less congestion in the world. So you definitely feel like, okay, well, if they decided they didn't want to go back, there's a silver lining if they stayed this way. But that's not really the case, because Earth wasn't the only planet to have the 50% cut of population. It happened on all the other planets with habitable life. And these planets are starting to experience some things that I think the Infinity Stone didn't mean to cause. And we find out in the film, and this really isn't spoilery at all. It's just a fact that's just mentioned, that one of the side effects from the Infinity Stones being used by Thanos was a lot of gamma radiation that was released. So there's a lot of stuff going on the planet, like earthquakes and natural disasters that are really spiked up. And there's one scene with Captain Marvel, who apparently is the one that's trying to combat a lot of this stuff. But what can she do? There's a scene where someone says, well, how can you stop an earthquake that's under the plates under the ocean? So there's that. Just a few thoughts before I get into the spoilers. Ant-Man, Ant-Man, Ant-Man. Can you even believe that it's all because of Ant-Man? And you'll understand that when you see the movie. That's not really a spoiler either. There are so many cameos. There's so much fun in this, if you're into that. And so many emotions. It does tend to be a little melodramatic in places. So now we are into the spoilers, and this is a red alert film. So it is a must-see on my alert meter. Okay, we're in the spoiler. So there is a two-phase response to trying to make the world right again. There is response A, which is the full force going, guns blazing, attack Thanos where they have seen his last location. Like I said prior, there is a way to record the gamma emissions, and they find out through scanners and satellites that there's this one planet, and actually Nebula already knows where he's at. She tells him he's at the garden because she knows that this is where her father said that he wants to be to live out the rest of his days or whatever. So they go to the garden, this planet, guns blazing, no real plan except to just go in there and take him out. And they do take him out, but they also find out from him that the stones have been destroyed. And that's what the second phase is. 5 years later, people have had families. Hawkeye has a daughter and a wife. Pepper and Iron Man have a child and a pretty happy life. And Iron Man, I think, is the most resistant to trying to change things at first. But this second phase is because of Ant-Man, who we find out has been living in a quantum reality, in a quantum realm for the last 5 years. He has no idea what's happened because the person that was supposed to pull him out of the quantum realm was taken in the event from Thanos. So when he finally gets out of it, he's like, "What's happened to the world?" You know, and he realizes that for the 5 years that he was gone in the real world, in the quantum world, he was only gone for 5 hours, and that's that. Long story short, it's a pretty long segment where he introduces this idea of this time travel using quantum mechanics, quantum technology. Um, all of this is very easy to understand. There is no point in this movie where things are not explained to you. If there's ever a question, it's explained. There's never any doubt of what's going on and how it's working. Any mechanism, any machine, any power is explained. They do not want you leaving this film feeling like, well, what was that all about? Or that didn't make sense. My only issue is how they explain and understand time, and I hope I can explain that in a very brief way. So I'm going to talk very quickly. My understanding of time travel and what they could do is something that was mentioned very early on, which is if they go back and they stop Thanos from even being born, kind of like the Terminator, then all will be well, this would never have happened, blah, 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 blah. But everyone besides the one person who suggests that says that anyone who knows anything about time travel knows that that wouldn't work. And I had a problem with that because that did work in X-Men Days of Future Past. And I thought the Terminator movies were quite successful because of the time travel. But their idea is they actually used the Terminator movie as one of the examples that basically John Connor survives, but he's always going to have someone coming back after him, coming back after him. So if they're going to face Thanos or get the stones, and they need to direct everything at Thanos and not a friend of his that would just take up his place if he wasn't there, or someone in his past that would come after them eventually. Let's just deal with Thanos. We know what we're dealing with. Let's not go back and stop him from being born or kill him when he was a child. Let's do this the way that we know it will absolutely work out in the end. The only way that they can go back and get the stones, defeat Thanos, and then put the stones back where they belong, allowing the world to maintain its reality the way that would help everyone who has existed during the 5 years. So that Iron Man says very much that if we go back and we're successful, I don't want anything in the past to be harmed, but I don't want anything that's happened in the 5 years since to be harmed either. Oh boy, using Ant-Man's technology of going back in time, or using the quantum realm to do this, they realize they're going to have to break up into teams because the stones are all different kinds of places. And they find out that 3 of the stones are actually in New York City at the same time. I think it's in 2012. And then they find out that obviously they're going to have to do some space travel for some of the stones, whatever. And this is really cool because they bring in segments from those past time periods, like when the first time that New York is attacked by Thanos and all those, it's just really, really cool how they did that. And there's a lot of cameos and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I'm going to wrap this up because I feel like I'm going way over time. I think it's going to be way over 5 minutes. But there are some for real deaths. And I'm going to tell you who dies. Okay. So in order to get the Soul Stone, you know that someone has to be sacrificed. Black Widow, for real dead, is not coming back. Tony Stark, Iron Man, makes the ultimate sacrifice by using the Infinity Stones himself. They wanted the Hulk to use them at all times. And the Hulk does use the Infinity Stones in the arm brace thing. But to ultimately defeat Thanos, Iron Man is the one who, after many, many, many Avengers that have assembled, all of them have come back from the past to attack Thanos, who brings an army that is literally made to obliterate the Earth. So, because he doesn't have access to the stones anymore, but he does have a fantastic army that at first seems like it's just going to annihilate everything until Hulk uses the Infinity Stones to bring back everyone, including the Wakandan army. So it's like game on, and this is at the end of the movie. So there's actually kind of 2.5 deaths because Captain America is the one who's chosen to go back to when everything is won and everything is done, to place the stones back where they have to be to make the continuum of time and reality not fluctuate, the Earth not have all this gamma emission issues and earthquakes and all this stuff. And for the universe, not just Captain Marvel plays a big part in all this. And when Captain America comes back, he's severely aged, and we find out that's because he went back in time and lived a happy life with his wife or his girlfriend. I'm not sure. I forget that story with her. Um, and that's the ending of the movie, really. I mean, everyone being happy and joyful, and um, not everyone being happy and joyful, but Captain America being happy and joyful because he's an old man and he explains everything. And Falcon is going to become the next Captain America, and everything is obviously going to go on because, as we know, in the next 3 years, there's going to be 5 to 7 new MCU films. So, you know, uh, Spider-Man's going to take off from this point and do his own thing, and I imagine Captain Marvel's going to have um, a sequel or two or three, and the Guardians of the Galaxy are going to do their own thing after this event. So there's going to be future, you know, future conflicts, future enemies, villains to take on. But at this point, the world has been restored. People have come back. Peter Parker's going back to school. 5 years have passed, but there they are. I think the film just gets bogged down by too much emotional, dramatic scenes. I think a lot of it doesn't contribute much because the ending is so strong. You don't need all that other stuff. So it's you feel the 3 hours. You feel the 3 hours, and I think easily they could have cut off 15. And if I mean, and that's just from me looking back and thinking this doesn't need to be there. This doesn't need to be there. But they probably could have cut off the whole half hour, and it still would have been perfectly fine. But they chose not to do that, and that's how it is. And I was teary-eyed at the end. So it's a good movie. It's just it's not Infinity Wars, and I suppose in time maybe I'll come to love it as much as I loved Infinity Wars. But yeah, I think a lot of people are actually gonna like this more than Infinity Awards. But good movie, red alert movie. You're really gonna love it, and I really liked it. It was really good. I mean, it just all the CGI, all the stuff that they can do in movies anymore. I remember when I was a little kid and I saw Hocus Pocus and I thought that was the most magical thing in the world. And now the things they can do, I mean, Captain Marvel, oh wow, that CGI stuff, what she can do. I'm looking forward to some Captain Marvel movies. So thank you all for watching this review. I hope it was a good one, and I hope the first half was enough to make you want to go see this. You're going to go see this movie anyways. And if you don't see it, you're going to rent it for sure. So, or Netflix will get it. So thank you all for watching. Goodbye. Captain